Today we're actually going to be talking about EventBridge Pipes. So Amazon EventBridge Pipes, and honestly, EventBridge Pipe is so EventBridge itself has a lot inside. So don't confuse it. I think if you see in the past, we've seen EventBridge rules, right? We've also seen more or less like how you can pretty much EventBridge itself is huge. There's so many services in there, right? But Pipes is just one of it. So if you think about how you learn EventBridge, just understand that Pipe is one of the service that's one of the offerings of EventBridge. Okay, and the problem is really, if you see the problem I was trying to describe before, is there's really a problem where you have a source and you have a target, right? That's if you think about that relationship that I showed you before, it's kind of messy, where you have like a DynamoDB and you have to create streams to a Lambda function and you have to be managing that integration. It's a lot. Because if you think about it, you have to deploy, you have to monitor everything in between. Sometimes there is like expectations during, if you're thinking about something that is ordered, you have to keep that expectation going. Sometimes there's also filtering and routing logic that you need to care about, right? Because if you think about how streams work, you're writing to a Lambda function, and sometimes it's really, really hard for you to actually do that filtering before it gets to your Lambda function, right? Sometimes authorization, rate limiting is also something you have to worry about. Retries, error handling, because when you saw that connection that I created from the DynamoDB to the Lambda, sometimes you have to think about retries. You also have to think about like when something goes wrong and you need to reprocess the message, how do you go about it, right? And then there was really the code itself. So you have to write like the code to poll for the messages, the batching and the passing and everything. All that you actually had to glue the code yourself, right? And that's where EventBridge Pipe comes in, right? So you configure it, and you see it in the class that where you see how we build it very simple, and then we extend it. But it's just basically you configure it. AWS will do all the polling, the scaling, and the delivery for us, and then basically all we get is a managed connector, sort of, right? So more or less like there's a source. We'll identify a source. In between, there's like an optional step for us to filter. We can enrich. We can transform the data if we want to, and then there is a target, right? Which still mimics the picture I was showing you, right? Where there's DynamoDB is the source and the target is really a Lambda function, right? And what can pipes do? So they can basically, let me zoom this in a bit just to make sure that you're seeing the text properly. So what if you think about what pipes can do, they can scale. So it's a managed service, so they can scale automatically, they can batch events, they can filter events, they can preserve order when the source supports it. So if wherever the data is coming, if it's ordered, they can also preserve that order. So retries and DLQ support is also there for sources that support it. And then it can also help you enrich. You can also transform the data. So what it means is that you can actually take the data, you can enrich it before actually passing it to the target. We didn't have that option when we were looking at Dynamo Streams, right, at the beginning. So what it means is that you can actually enrich the text that you're sending and move it to a target. And then when you think about some of the benefits, it's really more reliable delivery is really what you're doing, because there's built-in retries that you don't see. It's managed on your behalf, right? It's faster to ship, easy to operate. The point is that you're just configuring. You're configuring a managed service that is already there, and you're already getting the benefit, right? Less integration code, and you're going to see, right, where the target is really just getting the exact events I need. It doesn't really need to care about passing that the context itself to see what it looks like, right? So you'll be writing less integration code, because what you're sending to the target at the end of the day is really what you're expecting. And then lower downstream costs, right? Filter before invoking targets. The point is that now you're not just sending everything. You can decide to filter the things you want and only send that, okay? So if we look at some of these things, so this is EventBridge Pipes in a nutshell. It solves a problem. You configure it, and then you can pretty much set up a source and a target, and it does its thing, right? And in this call, we're just going to be seeing how we can set one up and how we can build with it, okay? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting, we'll just draw the same DynamoDB that we had. So we'll do DynamoDB, we'll just put this one here. We'll put DynamoDB. And the first target we're going to start with is we're going to do, the first target I really want us to start with is, let's do SQS. So I showed you DynamoDB to Lambda, but in this call, I'm going to show you DynamoDB to SQS, right? And and the reason is just because pipes support it, right? It does support DynamoDB to Lambda directly, but I actually wanted to complicate the problem a bit, just so that you can see some of the flexibility that pipes has. So in this case, we'll just be doing direct integration between Lambda and SQL. So what we're going to be doing, we're just going to be creating this connection. I think that is wrong. I should be doing this. Where is it now? I think I need this one. Okay, cool. So the first one we're just going to be doing, we're just going to do, so this is one pipe. So events, so this is like a pipe that we're going to be creating. We'll create a pipe here, and then we'll create a pipe also for Lambda function, okay? Like I said, I'm trying to complicate it here so that you can see different varieties of the problem, okay? So I'm just going to do this. I'm just also going to put a pipe. So connect this one, and then I'll put a pipe in between, okay? So we'll just do this. And then I'm also going to put a pipe here, okay? So a pipe will be here. Basically, that's it. So, and that's the promise, right? This is managed by AWS. The pipe itself is managed by AWS. All you care about is that your data needs to move from one source to the other source, and you're not really paying attention to the plumbing, right? So AWS will do that on your behalf. So in the demo I'm going to be showing you, we'll create two pipes. The first pipe will take from DynamoDB to SQS. The second pipe is going to take from SQS to Lambda. And then afterwards, we'll add some capability into it, more or less like create filtering around the pipe to send to different Lambda functions, depending on what the event is like, okay? But just keep this diagram handy, right? So we just have three things. DynamoDB will create SQL, we'll create a queue, we'll create a Lambda function, and then we'll use pipe to connect all of them, right? And that connection that you see that pipe is doing for you, something EventBridge Pipe is doing for you, something that you would have done. Sometimes it's just a lot. And just using pipes, it just makes it easy. Okay, so I'll take you to the console. The console is here. Let me just close this. I'm in my region, so pipes is here. But before we start, we need, like I said, we need DynamoDB, right? So we need DynamoDB and we need a queue. So we need to create one. So I'm just going to go to DynamoDB, okay? So DynamoDB. So searching, like when you are looking for any service, just searching for it is the fastest way to go. In this case, I'm just going to do customer stable, okay? Oh no, it's a table, so I don't need to do that. So I'll just say customer ID is the partition key. You know, at least you have to give it a partition key when you create a DynamoDB table. So my customer, maybe I don't need a sort key for this one. I'll keep everything default, right? But one thing you should take note of is that when you do capacity mode on demand, it's really nice when you're just trying stuff out. There's no need to provision a capacity, okay? So do create table. And that's pretty much easy, right? To create a table in DynamoDB. But the table here, you see, it's purpose built and it scales very well. So we're also going to go to queue. We'll create a simple queue, okay? Reload. Not sure what happened, why that snap was there, but we'll just create. Maybe we'll create a queue, right? So maybe we'll just say simple queue. We'll just create a simple queue. I think if you've seen some of the classes where we've gone through SQS, you know what visibility timeout is, retention, how long you need to retain. You know, SQS will retain message. Here is where you can specify how long you want to retain the message. There are many things you can, in case if you just want to know more about like configuring an SQS queue, you can learn more. But the point is that when you're configuring a queue, you can set in some things, in addition to the queue, right? And if you remember, you can have first in, first out queues. You can also have standard queues, right? In this case, we're going with standard queues, but you can also have first in, first out, which means the queue is ordered. Events are processed as they come in, okay? Following a particular order. In this case, I'll just leave everything default. I'll just use basic access policy as usual. Keep everything default and just create a queue, okay? So I'll create a queue. So if I go back to the diagram, what do we have? We have DynamoDB table on the left. We have a queue on the right. So if you go back to the diagram here, we have DynamoDB. We've created that, a table. We've created the SQS queue. We need a Lambda function. But at least let's create the integration. Before we add a Lambda function, let's connect DynamoDB and SQS. So it means that if you think about it, if you have a DynamoDB that you want to make sure that every time information is written to the DynamoDB, you want to have it in the queue to further process it. I know in some cases, some people are already used to like just having DynamoDB integrate with Lambda, but that's like a use case. In some use case, you actually want it to go to a queue. Maybe there's something you want to do. Because the good thing about a queue that you need to understand as you learn the cloud is the fact that you can always take away the backend. So I'm just sharing that with you now. Whenever you add queue really helps with more or less like reliability. And the reason is because you can take away the backend, right? Knowing that the information would remain in the queue, right? Because when you saw when we were creating the queue, there's like a retention. You can retain it for long. So it means that even when your backend is faulty, maybe you want to change this Lambda function to something else. Maybe you want to move it to SQS. Maybe you want to move it to ECS, or you want to move it to EKS. You want to change the backend logic. The good thing is that if it's already queued, you can just remove the backend, knowing that SQS will continue to gather the message. And once your new backend is ready, you can do the switch. Okay, so there's usually patterns where people will choose to use SQS when they are, aggregating information, as opposed to just writing it directly to a Lambda function. Okay, I'm just adding that as an extra. So right now we have DynamoDB, we have SQS. We need to create a pipe. The pipe is just connect both. It means when I send data to DynamoDB, it should fall inside the queue immediately. Okay, so how do we go back to do that? Let's go back to our table. We'll go back to our table. I'm going to go DynamoDB. Okay, so I'll go there. I'll check my tables. One thing you need to enable for this to work is that streams has to be enabled, because it still needs to use stream as part of what it's doing. So I'm just going to go here, and there is a place called export and streams. Okay, so I'll click export and streams. You just need to turn it on, right? You don't need to create the integration yourself, but you just need to enable it. So DynamoDB streams, currently stream status is off. I'm just going to turn it on, right? So in this case, I'm saying it depends. Sometimes maybe you just only want to stream the new image, right? So because when you do like a write to DynamoDB, there's like what it was and what is new, right? So sometimes maybe you only care about the old status, or sometimes you only care about the new status. But in this case, we'll just be writing both the old and the new information. So more or less like what it was before and what it's changing to, okay? So we'll just do turn on stream for this. And then once that is done, the next thing we're just going to be doing is to go to pipes. We'll go to EventBridge is the service. So EventBridge, and we'll go to EventBridge. We'll go to EventBridge Pipes. Okay, so if you remember, there's EventBridge boss. We've seen that before. There's rules, there's schedules. Some of these are some of the things we'll still discuss at some point. There's so many things that you can do, right? But for now, we're talking about pipes. Okay, so if you look at it on the high level, it basically takes a source. You can filter, it's optional. You can enrich, it's optional. But the most important thing is it's going to go back to a target at the end of the day. So just say source target. Okay. So in this case, we are going to do, we'll create our first pipe, right? So we'll create a pipe. And this pipe, what we are going to, I think we need to give it a name. Okay. So the name itself is Dynamo. We'll call it DynamoDB. DynamoDB to Q pipe. Let's just try to make it more or less like very descriptive, right? So the details here, it will take. So also just keep track in case you're architecting other things, right? I'm showing you a pattern, but if you're architecting other things, in as much as it supports any of this source, you can use the same pattern that I'm teaching you right now. So it's not like what I'm teaching you specifically for DynamoDB. So if it's Amazon MQ as a managed broker, or if it's SQSQ or Kinesis, Amazon MSK, and then there's also self-managed, Apache Kafka. Any of these would support what I'm building right now. But in our case, we're using DynamoDB, right? And then you can see it's asking for a stream, and that's why we had to enable stream. Okay, so it's asking for a stream. We'll give you the customer's Dynamo stream that it's listening to, and then we start the starting position. We'll just take latest. There's additional information. You can choose the batch size, which is maximum number of messages to retrieve in a single batch. So how many messages you want it to get at once? The batch window, more or less like how long it needs to wait before it gathers the information it needs and call your target. But all this we can keep it for default, right? But you can tune this. It's always based on your own use case. You can further tune it if you want, right? So we'll do next. Now is where we do filtering, right? You can filter. We're not going to touch it. We'll come back to filtering, but let's just do next. For now, we'll do next. We don't need filtering. Enrichment, you can also enrich. The point is that you can enrich the data you're getting from the source. You can enrich it before passing it to the target. That's really what it is, but we're not going to do it here. We'll do next. And then this is where it says, where's the target? Where are we sending that information? And then you can see so many targets, right? So you can send it to an SNS topic, send it to API gateway if you want. There's so many here. If any of the patterns you're trying to support any of these, you can use it. In our case, we already have an SQS queue that we want to send it to, right? So we'll send it to a SQS queue. Where is it now? So SQS queue, and it's going to be here. It's our simple queue. We don't really have, we'll come back to this. Right now, there's like target input transformer where you can actually, transform the input before it gets to the target, right? But for now, we're not going to be doing that. And I'm going to show you how we're going to use it later. So I'm going to create the pipe. So I'm just going to create the pipe. So we'll give it some time. The pipe is going to create. So let's give it some time. So we're giving it some time for the pipe to create. Let's see. So we're just going to go to pipes and see if it's created. So it's running. That's fast. So the pipe is already created. It has a source to be a DynamoDB stream, and the target is SQS, right? So this is ready. So if you look at our diagram, just the first part of it is ready. So if you think about it, DynamoDB, SQS. The point is, can we just write message to DynamoDB now and get it on our SQS queue? Why not? Let's test. So if we go back to where we were, we'll go back to our DynamoDB table. We'll go to DynamoDB table. We'll explore items, because for you to add, you pretty much just need to go explore items. No, I think you can actually go back to the tables. You can click on this table. You can actually, let me see. Create an item. So there's actually room for you to create an item. So you're writing an item into the DynamoDB table, right? So we just go here, create an item. Custom ID is mandatory because that's really where we want to be. That's the partition key, like the primary key, sort of. So we'll say 001. And then I'm just going to put name. So I'm just say first name is what? First name, first underscore name is John. And then the last name. So I'm going to add a new attribute and call it last name is Doe. Okay. And then I'm just going to create the item. Good. So if you look at it, if you go to customers table, tables, we go to customer table, we explore the items. You see that we have just one record here. The point is that after this, do we have information in SQS? So let's go and confirm. We just now need to go SQS, simple queue service. We'll open that one. It's here. And you can see there's one message available, right? So I didn't have to do anything. All I did was to also write to DynamoDB table. And then the message already just appeared in the SQS queue, right? So you can see there's one message available. You can actually, you know how we can do. You can actually send and receive message. You basically can try to receive message. So poll for messages, right? You can see there's one message that I created. This is the body itself. You can see last name is Doe. The customer ID is 001. And the first name is, what is it? John. So this is the exact information we actually wrote. And it's there. It's just there. It used pipes immediately to write the information to SQS. I didn't have to do anything. Usually, if I was to do this directly, there's a lot of plumbing that I'll have to do for me to have my information from DynamoDB stream to SQS, right? But you can see just with pipes, it got there automatically. I didn't have to do anything. So the information is here. If I go back to the simple queue, if I go back to the queues, the message is still there because, I just read the message. I didn't really do anything to it. So it's still going to be there. Good. So let's go back to the diagram. We already have one pipe that takes DynamoDB. Did you see that we didn't have to do anything? We just gave it a source, gave it a target, and then, boom, the information was already in SQS, right? So let's create the next pipe. The next pipe will need to send message to a Lambda function, okay? So what we'll just do is, here, our Lambda functions will not do, we'll keep it simple at that point. We'll just do Lambda function. But there are some other things that I'm going to show you. But let's create a Lambda function. So Lambda, we're going to create a new one. We'll just say create Lambda function, and we'll call it let's just say maybe customer, let's say simple, or let's just say management customer function for now. Okay, we'll optimize it as we go, but let's just use customer function. Sometimes naming is hard. Okay, so we'll just use Python 3.4. For those of you who always ask programming, yes, sometimes you need programming in cases like this, because if you're building Lambda, it's like a code that has to go in, and it can be in any of these languages, right? So, and then we can just use create a new basic Lambda function permission. We don't need to create an existing role. We can just use to create, let it create one for us, okay? Just a basic one, because we're not going to be doing anything much in the Lambda function, okay? So I'm just going to call it customer function, and then I'm just going to create the function. It's in, It's in Python 3.4, okay? We're going to create the function. Here it's creating the function. Let's give it some time. So if you go back to the diagram, you see we have DynamoDB. We created our first pipe, right? So DynamoDB to SQS pipe. We've created that. Now we now need to create another pipe for SQS to Lambda function, right? So we're just giving that function time to create. Right now, the function is ready. It's very simple Lambda function. All I'm just going to be doing, I'll just say print, customer. Let's just say customer management. Okay, so customer management. Okay, as a very simple function. And then the next thing I'm just going to do is I'm going to print the events. So the events that was sent, right? You know, when the event gets to Lambda, you can do anything with it going forward. Maybe you want to write it to a database, or you want to more or less like send it to a different system entirely. So I'm just going to deploy this. So just print customer management and then print the event. And just I don't need to test. Okay, so it's fine. So once that is ready, I just need to go back to pipes. So I'm going to go back to pipes. We already have one pipe that we created, which is DynamoDB to Q pipe. So let's create a new one. The new one will be, we'll call it SQS to Lambda pipe. Sometimes here I'm using this very simple word, but sometimes because you have many pipes as time goes on, sometimes maybe it will be better you are very specific in terms of what is the pipe doing, right? Maybe you have to just be specific, but in this case we are keeping it simple. So SQS to Lambda pipe is what we're creating here. That's what we are creating. The source, this should be standard stuff by now. We know SQS is a source, it's like a source that we can have. And then we'll do next. Like I said, we don't need the filtering now. We'll come back to it. We don't need any enrichment. We'll also just move to the next. And then this is where we choose the target. And in target here, we're going to be choosing the Lambda function. We have customer function that we created is here. We'll select it. And then the invocation type, you can choose maybe a sync invocation or synchronous. But here, I'm just doing fire and forget. Okay. So I'll just do asynchronous invocation. For target input transformer, I don't need. We'll come back to that for later. So I'm just going to create a pipe. So here, I think it needs, okay, I didn't choose the SQS queue. We need to choose our queue. We'll do next. We'll do next. And then we'll create that pipe, okay? So this is the second pipe. The first pipe takes from DynamoDB, writes it to SQS. The second pipe will take from SQS and write it to Lambda, right? So if you go, we now have two pipes. The pipes is ready, right? So there is one that takes from DynamoDB. That first pipe already did its job, right? It already wrote information to SQS. The second one is the one that will take from SQS to Lambda. So let's even see, without doing anything, if I go back to that SQS queue and see if that message has reduced. Okay, so I'm just going to refresh. It's running. Let's go back to the queue that we saw. The queue had one message, right? So let's refresh. You can see the message is gone, right? So from one message that's gone to 0, the message is in flight. Let's refresh. Now, that message is in flight is when the message was still in flight, waiting for it to be delivered to the target, right? But once it was delivered to the target did everything it had to do with it. You can see that the message in flight became 0. You know, when it's available, it's in the queue. But when it is taken out, you know, it shows it's in flight, meaning you don't want other consumers to be consuming that particular message. And now it's 0 because it has been consumed. Something has, you know, worked on that particular event. Okay. So with that, let's now check our Lambda function. Remember what we built, we said we created DynamoDB, we had a queue, we put pipe in between them, and then we also put another pipe here that connects SQS to Lambda. The question is that, was a Lambda function triggered with the information in DynamoDB? So we can find that. If you go to Lambda function, for example, you have monitoring, you can see things like invocations, you know, the things that happen to your Lambda function. If you scroll down, you can see recent invocation if there is any. There is none. It doesn't show like there is any, but let's just give it time. Let's give it time. I can also view in CloudWatch Logs and see if that Lambda function was invoked. Yeah, it looks like there's one log there. I'm just not seeing it in the console. But if I check logs, you can see there was a message, right? So that message, if you look at it closely, I think it's zoomed enough. So if you look at it, you see that this is the entire information that came in. It had what you should pay attention to is there's a customer ID here, right? 001 that we created. The customer's last name and the first name is what? John, and the last name is Doe, right? Good. So we've been able to set up a pipe, and the pipe you can see just by configuring. We didn't have to do anything extra. And it's always about your architecture. When sometimes you are building especially when you are building very distributed systems where you need information to move from one place to the other. The point is that EventBridge Pipe can actually simplify that process. It can actually help you do less plumbing. Just create that pipe, create that connection, and automatically you start getting it. So it means that the Lambda function was actually triggered. You can see this where we logged in print event, customer management, and after that line, we just print the event, right? But we already have it. So at this point, you can do whatever you want to do with it, okay? But this does not drive home the point. It doesn't really drive. Stopping here is not enough. It's not enough. Let's go back to our whiteboard. So we've created this as the first scenario, right? So this is working. We created a pipe. It took data from DynamoDB, landed it in SQS. We created another pipe that took the information from SQS to Lambda, right? Sometimes maybe you need one pipe. Maybe sometimes you need two pipes. Maybe sometimes you need more pipes than this, right? But this is really not enough for the use case that I want to show you. What if we extend this problem and we bring this down? No, I just want to duplicate this and bring it down, right? So what I want to be doing is that instead of having this, because SQS I'm going to keep as is, right? I'm going to keep SQS as is. I'm going to keep DynamoDB as is. But what if I want to extend this and say this Lambda function should be here, and there should also be another Lambda function? So I'm going to copy this Lambda function. This is where I'm going to name them properly, okay? So here I can actually call the first one. I can say maybe I'll call the second one provision account. So I don't know. I'll just give it a name. I think it's here. So I'll say provision account, okay? So I'll do this, and here I'll say I'll just do example and say send email, right? And then this is where you now begin to see the power of pipes, right? So here I can also do this. The point is I can also have a pipe that goes here. So I can also have a pipe. Good. So the point is I'm saying that I want to have two pipes, right? The same SQS, but I now have, the first example we did was very basic. We had one Lambda function that it starts from DynamoDB. The message goes to SQS. From SQS, a pipe also makes it very easy, and the function information lands on Lambda, right? But the question is that what if we wanted to more or less like have the information that is coming here, but we're not interested in all. We don't want everything to go to one Lambda. Rather, we want a subset to go here, and we also want a subset to go here, right? Because the queue is keeping a lot of information, but sometimes you want maybe when a status met. So here we'll create this pipe to say, would say maybe status. This is where I want to make this a bit small. No, I think that is taking off the pipe entirely. So let me bring in a new text and just do status is equal to email, let's say verified. In this case is what we're going to be doing. So we are trying to create this pipe, this one, to say status is email verified. Let me just push it here. We're going to create this pipe. And then the next one we're creating is we're going to push a new pipe here that says maybe provision. I don't know. We're just taking these conditions, but you can't have any kind of condition that you want, right? The point is that you can have two pipes. You can have one pipe that says send email if the status of the event that you care about is email verified, right? Maybe there is a Lambda function that is going to trigger to send, to send an email. You can also have one that says if the status is provisioned, we want to provision an account. I don't know what provision account is going to be, but the point is that you can have this kind of architecture. So starting simple and then, improving on it. So let's improve this architecture. We started from the simple one. Let's improve the architecture. The good thing is that some of these things, they're all serverless. So if you're not running them, they don't cost you anything. So we'll create the first function. The first function is going to be the first one that we saw. So it's send email. So we'll call it send email function. Okay, we'll call it send email function. It's also going to be Python 3.4. Sorry, not Ruby. Python 3.4. I'm just going to leave everything as default. It's going to create a basic execution rule. I'm just going to create the function. Okay. While it is creating, I'm just going to go back to another function also and create a new one. The second one will be provision account function, provision account function, and call it Python 3.14, right? And do dismiss. This function is ready, but I was trying to create a new function. I don't know why it brought me there. So I'm going to do this one. I'm going to say provision account as the function I'm trying to create. Yeah, provision account function. I'm going to do Python 3.4. I'm going to leave everything as default, right? I'm just going to create a function, right? While that function is creating, we'll just go back to the first function that we created. So this one is the send email function, right? It's bringing me back here. So let's go to the send email function. The send email function, we'll just go into the code. We're just going to modify it, and I'll just print sending email. Okay, so sending email, and then the next line will be print the event that I'm sending, right? So print event. Okay, and the second one I'll deploy this. I'll just deploy it to just make sure it's ready. Then I'll go back. Every time you change your function code, you have to deploy it, okay? So I'll also go back to functions again and check the last one we created. I think that one is provision account function. We can now do this, and then we can do, say, print. In this case, we'll say print provision account, which is really what the function is supposed to do. So provision account, and then we can also go back here and say we'll print the event. Okay, cool. Print event. Now with that done, we'll just deploy the function. Deploy will make sure your function is updated with the code. So that is done, right? So what we now need to do is we go back, we see we already have pipes, right? But if you look at the optimized architecture that we want to build, we don't want a situation whereby every code, every change in the stream, the DynamoDB stream, is triggering the function. We only care about it because that's how it works. Sometimes maybe there is a part. If you look at exactly the diagram, it means that maybe you're writing to DynamoDB, but sometimes you have Lambda functions that have been set up to trigger based on its status, right? So, and that's how you can build a workflow, because you can say the email now is verified, the send email function is going to trigger. You can say the status has changed to provision, a provisioning account Lambda function is going to trigger, depending on what that function is going to do. The send email, maybe it's going to send email, or if you want it to do extra, it can also. Okay, so let's continue. So what it means is that, just for simplicity, I'm going to remove this first one, right? This first pipe that we created was a simple one that was just sending directly to Lambda function. I'm going to delete it, right? So that we can create specialized pipes in this case. Okay, so the first pipe we're going to create is, we'll call it SQS. I think we said send email. We'll call it send email pipe. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do source again is going to be where's the source from? Source is from SQS, right? We said that, not DynamoDB in this case. It's from SQS. We use the simple queue, so we've seen this before. So we're calling it SQS send email pipe, right? This is where we start using filtering, okay? And this is where we start using filtering, because now we're saying that we have to filter the message before we send it to the target, right? So we don't want you to just take all the messages you are getting and sending it to the target. We want you to only send the messages that meet this criteria, right? The good thing is that if you check CloudWatch, we saw the pattern of the event, right? So the event is like, there's this JSON string here that is here, but also in AWS here, you can actually have a pattern. You can actually do sample events. So SQS events, this one pattern, this another pattern, this another one. The only thing here that you have to be wary of, it looks like the message is a text, right? Which makes it a bit tricky. The message here is saying message body, the body itself is a text message. But if you go back to the function, you see that truly there is a part called body, right? So the body is here. If you scroll, let me see where it is now. Let me search for body, right? Yeah, you can see body itself is a text, right? But inside of that text is a JSON, right? And that JSON is really what we need to fix. Let me see if I can actually show you what it looks like if you actually break this down. So let's look for one. Let me look for like a tool that I can use to break it down. But the point is that you have to tailor the filtering to match the events. And sometimes it can be tricky because now the message here is appearing as a string, right? But let me show you something that I have that will match that. Okay, so I have something like this. And I'm just going to show you that you have to keep track of the message you're trying to get. Make sure that you can filter it properly. Here, you can see if I test this pattern, I think it's complaining that I have, maybe this one has to be closed. If I test the pattern, it's not going to match, right? You can see it tells me some sample event did not match the pattern, right? But if I go back to where I was coming from and I take that message that I have, I think I have it simplified somewhere. So I'm just going to take this. I think it's the body is here. So it's this event itself. I'm just going to give me a second. I'm going to give you like a full body for that event. So the body is here. It's going to be like this one. Let me just paste it here. So I'm just going to do it here. Then copy this event. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing. I'm just copying. So what I've done is that I took this event, this one here. You can also take, this is basically, you just need to be able to break this down into a JSON that you can read, right? The most important thing is that break this into a JSON that you can read and then be able to filter it, and it has to match. If not, it's not gonna work. So what I did was that I took that event that I have, I can actually enter my own here, so I can paste it, right? So if you see this event, I think it's saying there's something wrong. I'm not sure which line is it, but let me see if I can actually get a correct JSON test JSON. Let me just see where the problem is. Paste this here. Not sure why it's complaining. Okay, I think there is an extra, and then this one is also duplicated. Okay, there's a lot of duplicates there. Let me see. The body is here. Oh, I see. I think that's the problem. Okay, so let me go back to it, and let me just do. I think the body is really what I'm replacing. So just give me a second. I'm trying to copy the right JSON. I think the body is what I'm trying to replace. Let's see. Yes. So this is actually supposed to be body. Okay. I think if you know how to pass this event, it becomes very, very easy. Okay. So let me just show you what that will look like. Yes, this is correct. Correct. And then I'm just going to format the document. Okay. And this will be valid JSON now. I'll paste it here. Let me see. Okay. So this body is wrong actually. What's going on? Just sorry. Oh, did I copy everything? I'm supposed to just copy just the part of it. So body is here. Cool. Okay, let's see. So message ID is correct. This is correct. Attributes. What is it complaining for now this time? It's complaining about something, but this is a valid JSON this time. I'm not sure why it's complaining. Oh, okay. I think I see a comma here. We format the document. Let's try this one. And then I see, yeah, I think this one has to be quoted, right? And then I think there's a problem here. Oopsie. Just give me a second. I'm trying to get the right JSON, okay? So I know what the event should be, but I also want you to be able to generate it yourself if you want to, okay? So that's why I'm trying to show you how the event is and how you can translate that to a legit JSON that you can use, okay? Let me see. Where is it even complaining about? What I'm copying here is different from what it's pasting. Okay, yeah, I think it's correct now. I'm not sure what was happening there, but let me open this. So what I did was that if I go back to what I did, if you check the logs, everything is in JSON, right? But the body itself, if you check the body is actually in a string. You can see this single quote, right? So single quote, and then there's a JSON inside. So what I did was just to make sure that I took this body and made it a JSON. That's the only way you can be able to easily test your event pattern, okay? So what I did was just to make sure I take this. So this is just it's a JSON itself, is a list. Just break it into a JSON so that you can test, so that you're not doing a lot to troubleshoot. So what I've transformed that to is that I've just broken the JSON, the body itself to a JSON. It's DynamoDB. You see, it's like this, it's like that. The status is going to be something like this. And now when I test my sample event, test event, you can see it says it matches, right? So I'm creating an event like this to match, to say that the only time I want you to trigger this Lambda function, it's when this matches. And that's because I understand what it is sending to the Lambda function. There is a part of it that is body. Inside of it, there is DynamoDB. There is a new image. New image means the new one that is going to, so there's usually existing and there's new. In this case, I'm saying when the new has a status, and that status is equal to email verified, that's the only time you should trigger this Lambda function. But again, you have to play with this part to understand that you have to check the exact event and make sure that you can write a filtering that matches that event, right? So with that in place, I'm just going to do next. Okay? So in enrichment, I don't need to enrich. Target is where I'm going to choose my Lambda function. In this case, I'm saying that if the guy's email is verified, then I want you to trigger that Lambda function, the one that will send email, right? So here I'm saying send email function is where you should go to. And then invocation type, I can do find and forget, and then I can create the pipe. Okay, we'll come back to target input transformer later, but for now, let's focus on this one. So it's creating that pipe, right? It's going to create that pipe. The next thing we also want to do is create the next pipe, right? So the next pipe, this one is SQS send email pipe. The next one will be SQS provision. I think it's provision account pipe. Okay, and in that case, I'm just going to do the source is going to be SQS as usual. We'll choose the queue. We'll do next. And then we'll also now, because I already know the pattern, right, that I created, I don't need to take you through that stress again. I'm just going to bring the pattern here, right? But what the only difference you notice is that one, I think, no, this is not what I should be doing. Sometimes you copy something and you paste the wrong thing. But this is what I'm pasting. If you think about it, the first one had status is email verified. The second one is status is provisioned, right? And then, so I'm trying to say, I don't really care about what is here. I know what the event is. So you don't, this is just a sample. Sometimes the sample will change depending on your own use case, right? So in this case, I'm saying, I know what it's going to be and I know this is going to match because it's all coming from DynamoDB, right? And that's why you have to pay attention to the body. The body will change depending on where it's coming from. In this case, because it's coming from DynamoDB, it's going to look like this. But maybe if it's coming from something else, it's also going to change, right? So we'll do this and then we'll do next. And the target is going to be a Lambda. No enrichment, we don't need anything to enrich it. We just need to specify a target. And the target in this case will be the Lambda function to provision an account, right? And then we'll create the pipe. Okay, cool. So we created two pipes now. We've created two pipes. So if we go back, we have pipes, and these pipes, there is one for sending email pipes, and the other one is to provision account pipe, and that we've created. One is only going to check when the status is equal to email verified, and the second one is only going to trigger when the status is provisioned. Okay. So what we're going to do is that we'll now go back. Let's just wait for the two pipes to be created. This one has been created. This one has been created. What we can now do is that we can go to DynamoDB, right? And then we'll go to tables as usual. We'll go to this table. We'll check here and we'll say we'll create a new item, right? So in this case, what we are going to do is we'll call it 002, right? And then what we can also do is we'll give it a name. We'll call it first name. First name is what? Maybe Jane. And then the last name is also a string. Last underscore name is Doe, right? And then we can also do status, right? Because we actually care about the status. So we'll do status. And then we'll do email verified in this case. That's really what we want to check. So we'll do email verified. We'll create the item. And then once we've created the item, so you can see the second field we created, there's 002. It has Jane Doe email verified. Now, with that in place, maybe we should check from our SQS. It probably will not be fast enough to catch it. Probably would have gone. But if I refresh this, there's no message. Maybe it has even processed the message already. So what I'll be doing is going to check those functions. The first one is the email function. We're just going to go to CloudWatch because that's where we'll see if the functions have been triggered or not. So we'll go to CloudWatch. CloudWatch is opening on the other side. And then we are going to check those logs. We'll check log management. We'll check the function. So there's two of them. We'll open both of them on two tabs. Okay. So we're opening the first one. It's the customer function, right? This one was triggered long ago, so I don't think it's triggered again. It was only triggered once, you can see. So this is not the one we care about. We care about the one that is send email function and the send email. What about the provision? I thought we had a provision function. I thought we created a function for provisioning. Provision account function. Yeah, this one. Why am I not seeing it in the logs? There should be log group for that, right? There's nothing. Okay, maybe because it has not written anything yet. Yes, maybe because it has not written anything to the stream. So let's search for function. Let's check for send email function. I'm pretty sure it has one trigger, right? You can see it. And if you check it, you see the message is here. You can see sending email, right? You can see sending email, and then it's sending email before the old image was this. The old image was, what is it? There is an old image here that says customer ID 002. The first name is Jane. The last name is, but you can see it's email verified, right? Now let's try for the one that will be, let's change this status from email verified to provision and see if it's going to trigger the same function again. So what we can do is that we can go to DynamoDB, but at least we know that one part of the pipe is working. So the part that is email verified is calling the right Lambda function. we're going to check for the second one that is checking for provisioning, right? And see if it's going to work. So what we can do, we have the function already. We've created a pipe already, right? So there's like 2 pipes that we've created. We just now need to test that Lambda function. So go back here, go to partition ID, like the customer ID 002, and change this from email verified to provisioned, right? And then save and close, right? Once we save and close, what we can do is we can go back to CloudWatch again and check the logs. So if we go to log management and we refresh here, we refresh, sometimes it takes time for it to show, but I'm even surprised that it hasn't created that logs. It should at least create that log. The function itself should. So provision, let's check the configuration and check the permissions. Where is it now? Permission. It has the ability to do all this, so it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so it's here. Let's check monitor and see if there's like a CloudWatch Logs we can look at. So scroll down. Does not exist. So for some reason it didn't create the log group. I'm not sure why. Let's see and create. Let's try and create it on his behalf. Something is not right. Usually to create the CloudWatch Logs for you, but let's see. Let me just create it myself. Just create it. Now we've created our cloud that log group. So provision accounts. There is no stream yet. So let's check that function again and refresh and see what's happening. So we refresh the function and see that log group if it's seeing it. Let's see. Okay, so it's saying no data. So at least it has seen the logs. I think it was kind of strange that I'm not seeing the CloudWatch Logs created. It should have created one, but it didn't create it. But we went and we created it manually. But in most cases, ideally to create a CloudWatch Logs. Okay, so let's see the log management again. Let's check for function, and then let's check provision accounts, this one, and see if there's anything there. There's still nothing. Let's see queues and see if there's any message here. There's still no message. Let's check monitoring. You can monitor your queues also. You can check, you can see the messages coming in. It shows here, the messages we are sending. You can basically see more details about your queue, right? But let's go back to that logs and see what's happening. Let's see, refresh. It's still not seeing anything. Let me see permissions for that log group. So we'll go here, we'll check permissions. We'll check what permission it has, /lambda/this. So it can actually write and create stream here. So let's just go back and check. We know the CloudWatch log group already exists. So we just need to give it time. Or we can also try again. Let's start. Let's go back to the tables that we had, this one, and let's try to insert another item. So this one, we're going to call it 003. And then we're just going to add a new attribute, call it a string, and call it the first name. First name is, it doesn't really matter what we call the first name, but we're just going to call it my own nickname, and call it, give it a last name, and call it maybe TikTok. I think this is TikTok. And then we're just going to do a string again and call it status. Status, and call it provisioned. Okay, so we're going to do this and create the item again. Okay, so now we've created a third item, but let's see the first function. So the first function itself is this one, send email. Let's see how many times it has been triggered. It's been triggered only once, right? Because it's only once that rule was met. So you can see this is the only rule that met. That you can see. You can also always verify. It shouldn't. One of the ways you can check is that the Lambda function should not be triggered unless the status is what's email verified. But let's go back to the other functions. So the second one we created, provision account. Yeah, you can see this one also has been triggered, right? If you check it, you see that the status for this one is going to be provision, right? And if we go back to the other function, you'll notice that it was not triggered. So if you go back to provision account, the send email account is still triggered only once. So it wasn't triggered before, right? So this one was only triggered when it's email verified, and this one was also triggered only when the status was provisioned, right? Cool. But one thing you also notice, so you can see provision account, you can see the message here. But one thing you can also do, we can take this further. One thing I also want to show you is that this event is kind of like, it doesn't look nice because it's sending all this to to the Lambda function, but maybe I don't care. I don't care about all of this. I only care about the body itself, the portion for the body, right? So these particular pipes, as it is right now, is sending everything. But some of this information, maybe I don't need them. Maybe I'm not interested. So that's where you can also do more things. So we can go back to the pipes. In this case, I'm interested in in any of the pipes, in fact. So we have two, the SQS to Lambda pipes. We can modify it, right? To more or less like decide what gets sent to the Lambda. Right now, I don't like the way that Lambda is getting a lot of information. That's like, it's redundant. We don't really need it. So what we can do is that we can go back here and we can edit. So just so you know, you can edit your pipes. And here, what I'm going to do is filtering is already in place. Remember, we have filtering in place. So I'm not going to be touching the filtering. I'm just going to go next. I'm not going to be doing enrichment also. Enrichment is just enriching the data before it gets to the target. You can also do that if you want to. There's a requirement to say, before you send this to the target, maybe you need to call an external API, because you can see here, enrichment, you can call a Lambda function, step function, API gateway. You can do many things. The point is that the data you have, you can call something external, and maybe verify something, and then enrich the information you have before sending it to the downstream, okay? So what we're going to be doing, we're not really doing enrichment here, but here is where I want us to do target input transformation. And what we're going to be doing is that the sample event is going to be from SQS. I know it's coming from SQS. I know already, right? Because that's exactly what we're building. If you go back to the diagram, it starts from SQS and it goes to two Lambda functions. So our source is still SQS. So we're going to say, we were here just now. I think we're trying to edit this, right? No, not this one now. I think it's here. Okay, yeah. So we know it's from SQS. I'm just going to pick a sample event from them, but I'm not going to use it. And all I want is really the body. So usually it's going to take all this from SQS and it's going to send it. But I don't want all. I don't want all of it. I pretty much just want. Let me even see if I can send this. But I just want the body. So here I only want the sample event too. I only want the body. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove all the attributes here. Okay, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to also remove this. Okay, so I'm going to close this. So what I'm saying is that the event you see on the left is the event, this sample event. You can also bring your sample events. The good thing about this is you can test them in the UI, make sure everything is working as expected. But the good thing is that you can actually have the sample event the way you want it. In this case, it has everything. It has attributes and all that, but I don't need all this. I don't care about them. I only care about the body. And here I'm saying, whatever the body is, send it to the Lambda function. So I'm going to update the pipe for this one. So we've done this for this pipe. Let's also do that for the send email pipe. So this one is updating. We'll go back here and also enrich, just do targets and do, so we'll just modify the pipe and we'll do next. We'll go next again, next, until we get to the target. The target is what we're trying to transform. We'll go here and choose a sample event, in this case, SQS, pick only the body. So we only want the body to be sent to the Lambda function. And once that is done, we're just going to update the pipe again, and then we'll check the pipes. And now it's also updating. We'll refresh. Just make sure both of them is updated, right? So we're going to update. Good. So it's been updated. So what we now want to do is, let's go back to DynamoDB and play with those two data that we have. So for the first one, we're going to change it from status. So if we go back to our items, so we're already here. This one has provisioned, right? Both of them have provision as it stands right now. Or let me refresh. It shouldn't be provisioned. Are they both provisioned? Okay, so for 001, let's change the status to, let's add a new attribute and call it status to, maybe let's move this one to verified. Okay, so we're just going to use email verified as a status, right? Save and close. And then we're also going to go to another field, this one, Brainyl, and then we're just going to change the status from, okay, so let's create a new one. The other one, we changed it from, from no status at all to email verified, right? So this one that is provisioned, maybe we also want to create a new item completely that has, that has provision. So we're just going to go here, add a new item. And in this case, we're just going to say 004. We'll add a new, we'll say string, we'll call it first name. Here, we're just trying to test, okay? So there's nothing magical that is happening here. I'll just say first, and first name is here. We're just going to add a new string, call it last name. So last name, and call it last. And then here is where we want to do the status. we're just going to give it provision. Okay. Remember, it's not going to do anything if the column did not change, right? In this case, we're only changing. We're trying to create. So the first one we changed it to email verified. The second one we created a new field and we called it provision, just to trigger those two edits that we've done to our pipes. Now, what will happen? Let's go to CloudWatch. Let's go here to provision account, refresh. Let's see if the Lambda function was triggered again. It's still the first one. It has not been triggered. Let's refresh, or let's give it some time. But while that is going on, let's see the send email function. So this one, let's see if it has been triggered recently. This is 31. I think it was, yes, this is 21, 29. Maybe it's this one. Let's check. You can see it's actually triggered it. But can you see the difference? If you look closely, you see that this whatever it sent is cleaner. It's cleaner than how it was before, right? Before it sent a lot of things that we didn't need. But if you notice now, all it's sending is actually just the body, right? Because we said, please, I know I have all these, but I don't care about all of them. I only just need the body part, just the body to be sent to the Lambda function. And you can see that's exactly what is happening. So let's also go and check for the last Lambda function, which is the provision account Lambda function. Let's see if there's any new events. There is no new event yet. Sometimes these things are very, very tricky how they behave, right? There is still no event yet. This is the old event. You can see the difference between the old event and the new event. The new event sent body, but the old event was sending everything. You see, it was kind of too bulky. And now we've abstracted it to only send body. But I'm not sure why this one has not triggered yet. Let's see. Or we can also just go back to explore table items and see which one we can move to provisioned. This one is email verified. Let's change this one to provisioned. Let's change it to provision. I just want that Lambda function to be clicked again, to be triggered again, so that we can see what's going on. So provisioned. Let's refresh. Yeah, it was triggered now. Not sure what happened, but you can see now 2132. This is really what we're looking for, and what we just want to confirm is really that the body was changed. So you can see before it was email verified. That's the old image. And then the new image was changed to provisioned, which is the one we care about. Because in the filtering, we said, if it is provisioned, if the new image is provisioned, that's when you should trigger this function, right? And now you can see that instead of sending everything, it's sending just the body, okay? So that brings us to more or less like everything I wanted to show around pipes. But you can see how easy it is to pretty much take a target, put a pipe in between, and just set take a source, put a pipe, an EventBridge pipe in between, and just to choose a target. And automatically your data will be moving there. And you can see that because we were able to transform, your Lambda function can be very clean. You know exactly what your Lambda function is expecting. And in this case, I know that this is really what my Lambda function is expecting, right? So your Lambda functions can be cleaner, and pipe will always do its thing. It will always get the event from where it should get it from. It will always target the source, get it from the source, and always push it back to a specified target, right? Cool. So that goes back to the diagram. We started from creating this first one, just a simple pipe that took from DynamoDB to SQS, from SQS to Lambda, and then we extended it to say, take it from DynamoDB, put it in SQS, but from SQS, we want you to be able to use a particular field of the data to be able to choose which Lambda function to call, right? So, and then here we said, if it's email verified, call this Lambda function. If it's provision, call the provision account Lambda function. Cool. So that brings us to this class, the end of this class. I just really wanted to show you EventBridge pipes and show you real firsthand how you can work with them. It's a pattern you also need to understand. People talk about EventBridge, there's like boss, there's like rules, there's schedules, but that's not all that EventBridge has. There's a number of features, and one of it is really EventBridge pipes. And it's always very useful in terms of because if you think about it, if I actually want to have DynamoDB send data directly to SQS, sometimes it's not very easy. You have to pretty much create streams. From streams, you have to get them from Lambda function that will write to SQS. But it means that if you have a use case where from DynamoDB directly to SQS, you can pretty much just have it with pipes. Okay. If you have any question, you can ask at this point. But I think we've come to the end of the class. The end of the particular subject.